UDC.
So good morning, everyone, to this morning's NGA vendor spotlight session. This morning, our topic is in automating gas outage management, and UDC will be discussing their GIS-based solution for automated gas outage management, pioneered with the participation of NGA members. And on the discussion today will be led by Bart Elliott, who's the Executive Vice President. Bart's background includes nearly 3 decades GIS expertise in automation related consultant for utilities with Convergent Group, Inspira, Black & Veatch in UDC. His extensive experience assisting utilities with GIS, outage, work management, mobility, asset management and pipeline integrity technologies, and also presenting Faye Hall is Director of Systems Integration. Faye brings over 20 years systems integration, software development, and GIS expertise to the team. She's responsible for oversight of design, development, implementation of UDC's digital utility web and mobile solutions for both gas and electric utilities. My name, I'll be moderating the session, is Jose Costa, Vice President of Operations with the NGA, and with me, my colleague, Heather Vieira. Heather will be assisting as well as on the technology side during this presentation today. If you feel free to ask questions, unmute yourself to ask questions throughout the presentation. If you prefer, you can also ask questions through the chat feature. And I will see that and ask the question to Bart, Faye, or Faye. So with that, Bart or Faye, whoever wants to lead off, the presentation is all yours.
All right, that's me. So good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining. Really appreciate all the folks on the call spending their time. So what we intend to talk about today is really automating the gas outage management process. And we are talking about automating it through using your GIS system, your Esri GIS system. And we're going to show you the applications that UDC has built on top of the Esri, GIS application. So the bottom line is that anybody who's using the Esri GIS platform can manage it or maintain it over time. And it's not some top secret proprietary deal. It's something we've evolved to work on a pretty common platform. As Jose said, we did evolve this application with the help of the NGA over time. We got a lot of the base requirements for gas outage management from NGA. And what we've created is that base that everybody shares, that 90%. And then, we will work with you in your individual utility to create processes exactly as you need them or how you do them, and try to, we can configure the application to fit your needs. So next, Faye. So real quickly, our company, we are 15 years old. We have about 400 plus employees located in several locations. We do have employees in the Northeast as well. Ed, who's on the call, is in Long Island. We have other employees in New Jersey and located around. We, as a company, take the spatial platform, basically the picture in your automation, and try to make business applications with that are useful, like gas outage management. And so we basically are an integrator that uses a spatial platform. We build most of our stuff on the Esri platform because it's a common platform. And you can see that we've won some awards for what we've done, including an award for gas outage management. So we're getting some attention for that. Thanks, NGA, for all the help you provided. Next. So we have a wide range of customers. Some of those customers are very big. We did the gas automation for PG&E, SoCal Gas, SDG&E, Sempra, and other folks as well. But we also worked with some of the smaller utilities out there, and we like working with utilities of all sizes. For example, Norwich is part of NGA, and we have worked with them on a variety of things. Vermont Gas we've worked with in the outage area. Eversource, we're currently been engaged for quite a while with those guys. And we are working with Unitil as well right now. I thought we'd added that to the table, but I think Stacy, who's the leader at Unitil, might be on the call today. So anyway, we've worked with a number of gas companies and electric companies, and that's kind of our background. Next. So we've mentioned it a couple times. We did work with Northeast Gas to really build this outage application and build the base of it. So, really we put 4 functional areas into the gas application that we went through the processes and routines of all the, a lot of utilities at NGA so that you could manage and control your events. You could visualize both your repair and shutoffs and your restarts, and you could document it all and it would be traceable. And better yet, even include customer outage communications, being able to communicate your outage to your customers and understand what your customers are due, which I think is an important part. So anyway, those 4 bases came from, working with NGA. Next, Faye. So I'm going to turn this over to Faye Hall right now, and Faye's going to take everybody through the 9 functions that the gas OMS provides and show you examples of those. And please take a look at them and ask questions, and we'll give you all the interaction or try to answer all your questions. So I think that is easier than going through a big demo. I think it gets you right to, here's the functions and here's what the system does right now. Faye?
Thanks, Bart.
You're welcome.
So as we met with NGA and their membership, what we did was we provided some questionnaires to all of the utilities and asked them to fill out the questionnaires so that we had some idea of what their current processes are, what their process is, and what systems they're using. And after we received all that information back, we identified these 9 primary functions that the majority of gas OMS applications or solutions, because a lot of times utilities have a variety of different tools that they use for their outage. But these were the 9 primary functions that seemed to come out. You want to recognize and declare the outage event. You want to be able to generate the restoration lists and the red tag, the punch list, and everything else. You want to be able to publish and know what the updated time of restoration is. It is estimated at this point. I mean, obviously, until it's done, nobody really knows. And then you want to be able to dispatch and perform the tagouts, dispatch and perform the repair or the system reconfiguration. You want to dispatch and perform the repressurization and the leak survey. And finally, dispatch and perform the relight. So a lot of that is assign, complete the work, assign, complete the work. All the same time, you want to be able to track progress. As the outage is going on, you want as near to real-time updates as possible so that you don't have any lag when you have to report out. And you want to be able to communicate the outage completion. And it says outage completion, but it goes hand in hand with tracking the premise progress. You want to be able to communicate the outage status. So we're going to go through these 9 primary functions, the first of which is recognizing and declaring an outage. So what we've done, this is a web application that we've built that allows you to use the GIS, the information that you have in your GIS, and recognize or declare your outage. You can, in this scenario, what you see is somebody has suggested that there is an outage along this main, and we need to isolate it. Somebody has gone through and said, I want to do an isolation trace on this pipe, but they've also added a squeeze off on this pipe, which is just down below, and you'll notice that it stops halfway. And it also goes back to an isolation valve before it hits the main, the primary main back here running down Yackley Avenue. So what we've done is we've given them an idea. So to isolate this using this squeeze off and an isolation valve, this is the number of meters or customers that you would have out, the number of valves and number of squeeze offs that are going to be impacted by this outage. This was done utilizing the GIS network trace functionality, but we have a couple different variations in here for identifying your source. We do the trace in the GIS. We have the ability to throw it out to Synergy. If your Synergy model is more connected than your GIS, we can go out to Synergy, do the trace in Synergy, and come back with the results. You can also identify the area. You can use predefined polygons in your GIS as the areas. So if you've already gone through and just created an isolation zone or an isolation area, you can load those in and select one, or you can draw it yourself. Now, each of those variations will have a slightly different work. Oh, and you can upload a CSV file. So if you have another system, such as your CIS, and it outputs all of the customers impacted because you don't have the trace functionality in your GIS, you can upload that information. And technically what that does is it gives you the ability to use the gas OMS without actually having any GIS information in Esri at all. So backing up slightly, if I do the isolation trace, then I know where the valves are, I know where my services are, I know how many meters and everything else. If you have a fully connected GIS, we have everything in there so we can do all of that workflow that we talked about, the 9 primary functions. If you are uploading the customers from a CIS, I don't know where your valves are, I don't know where your mains are, I don't know if you're going to use squeeze offs or anything else. So the best we can do in that case is control your turnoffs and control your turn-ons. So it's a slightly different workflow, but you have that in here, the ability depending on how complete your data is at this point in time, and you can grow into it if you need to. So here we've isolated this area, and 114 meters sounds like a good thing. Obviously, we could add another squeeze off in here to kind of reduce it if we wanted to just try to go in there and make it even smaller. But at this point, for this outage, that's what we chose to do. Once it's been declared, sorry, I should have asked any questions before we keep going.
Where does
Okay.
the squeeze off, Faye, where does that other data in that form come from? Valves and squeeze offs. Where does that data come from?
So because I did the trace, the valves are actually in the GIS in this data model that we have. So it does a trace until it finds an isolation valve. So it's just doing an isolation trace in the GIS, basic GIS functionality. The squeeze off, now technically when I do this, I do the isolation trace and it will actually find 215 meters because it comes down, it's a little further, you can't see it, but there's another isolation valve down there. I decided that was too large, so I added the squeeze off myself. That is something that using the map, you come in, you pick a point on the map and it says, okay, this is my squeeze off. I can do it on a main, or I can do it, this is another type of valve here. I could use, it's a non-controllable fitting in this data set. So we've configured it so I can use non-controllable fittings as squeeze off points as well. But I get to pick what those areas are.
So those summary fields are populated automatically. They're not filled in by anybody that's controlling the outage.
Correct. It calculates that information based on how you've identified it. So what you can't see here, and if I do a demo, you would see it. There's a preview button. The preview button says, this is how many people would be impacted if this is really what you want to do. And at that point, you get to manipulate, add your squeeze offs, decide if that's truly what you wanted to do. At that point, you could break it up into smaller outages if there was some way to control it, meaning control the outage in smaller pieces. And then when you're finished, I want to say manipulating your outage, then you hit submit. And that submit is what's going to generate all of the work that needs to get done.
And the summary.
So, yes. No, the summary, as soon as you do the preview, the summary is there.
Oh, okay. Even before that. Okay, thanks.
Yep. So this button here switches between preview when you first come in and update when you make changes. And as you update it and make changes, this summary will get updated with whatever and should reflect everything that you see on the GIS that it's calculated will be impacted. Because we don't want to try to change things after the fact. It's harder to clean up after yourself than to just make it right the first time. Okay. And so, good call. I should have mentioned the submit on. When you hit the submit, that's when it's actually going to start generating all of the work based on what you've selected. So this is where it's going to generate the customers that need to be turned off and turned on. It will create work for the valves that need to be, I always get this wrong, opened up and closed. And then any sort of squeeze off. So it will create the work for the squeeze offs. Assuming you've done a trace or in these workflows, you will get your turnoffs. And then you will go through and get a repair. There's just one work item created for repair. And that's just because we don't know the extent of what you need to do. So at that point, it's really just a flag to say, hey, we're done this work, let's continue. And then you would repressurize the system. At that point, you would close your valves or open your valves. Sorry, got that backwards. And repair your squeeze offs. You would identify your repressurization points and manage those. Once that's complete, you go into leak survey. So all of the work for this, and then relights, all of the work is being generated at this point. Hence my comment, it's easier to get it right the first time than it is to clean up after yourself. It will, when you declare the outage, you have the ability to update the estimated time to restore. But as the outage work is being generated and as the outage is continuing, there is the ability to update that, and that would get reflected in the dashboards that we'll see later on in the workflow. So now when we get to dispatch and perform the shutoffs, that's the first step in this workflow. There is an event management module that controls all of the work. So I've gone into the outage that we just defined for Bark Ridge Court. And I have selected, using my map, I have selected this one section. And it has filtered my list. You can see that it's filtered those rows, and I've selected those 12. And I'm going to assign them to a specific field tech. So that work would go out to him in the field. So this would be dispatching or assigning work from the office to the field. Once that's been done, the user just needs to sync their mobile device. And at this point, it could be iOS or Windows. Those are the platforms that we currently support, but because it was written using Xamarin, this may be a little low level, we have the ability, it is a build once, deploy to many different platforms. So Android is expected to be available shortly. So in here, you can see this is all of the work that was assigned. It's a different area than what we had just assigned to Jalaj because I am a different user. So I can see only my work. I have gone through and selected each of these points. Let's say I just did the cul-de-sac to shut everybody off. I tapped on these points to say these 3 or these 4 items. It selects them in the list, and I can use this check mark to say I'm done. So it's a very fast complete when you're in the field. If you need to track information for each of those, the very quick complete won't work because you have mandatory fields that would not be filled in, and you would use the edit button to edit the form. And you could fill in the additional information. If you have an exception, like you can't get in, and you wanted somebody else to come back and try it another time, you would open up the form, indicate that you can't get in, it would come back as an exception, and somebody could manage it through that process. Okay. Any questions on the mobile piece?
Yeah, this is Mike Gallinaro. I have a quick question. I'm sorry I couldn't get it out in the first part. So is this system, does this pick up unplanned outages or at least for planned outages?
You can use it for both.
So it can't pick up unplanned outages?
Yes.
Because that's okay, good. No, that's interesting. That's very good. All right, thank you.
Okay. So once all of that is complete, we kind of showed the meter shutoffs at this point, but that would include all your valves and creating your squeeze offs. We would have to dispatch and perform the system reconfiguration. I'd mentioned earlier that system reconfiguration is kind of the repair step where you fix the outage. There is just one single work item, which you can see here on the left. The list only has one item, and it is shown spatially as the entire area of the outage. And that's just to say this has been completed. There are two ways to complete this. Obviously, you saw that you can assign it to somebody, dispatch it to the field, and complete it, but you can also complete it if it's a back office function where somebody just gets a call and says, okay, the repair is done. You can complete it from the web page. But here it is on the mobile. So on a tablet, you would have this one item, all outages, and you would just hit complete, or you could track the information. If you had additional information that you wanted to, you can click edit and get the form so that you can see the information or fill in the information for future information reference. Okay, bottom right corner, I'm dispatch and perform the repressurization step. This one is it's got two, repressurization and leak survey, but it's the same pattern. So we're reusing event module. We just have different work. We want to open the valves and repair the squeeze offs. We're going to assign them to Sean. And then Sean will be out in the field and he will complete them as he completes them. Okay. So here he's doing the squeeze off. You'll see it indicates the pipe. It's a gray dot and it's got a highlight on it as well. Ideally, he would fill out the form because there's going to be additional information that he's going to want to record so that we can keep track of the information or any maintenance that was done on the pipe. And then he can complete that work. And when it syncs, they move into the next step, which is leak survey. Leak survey is for the entire area. You want to make sure that there are no leaks that have come out. So here you have one item. It's the leak survey, and it's on the entire area. Similar to the repair, you can assign it out to the field. And then somebody in the field can either walk, drive, or do what they need to do to complete that survey. Now, dispatching and performing relights. Same idea, we've got more things that we have to actually dispatch. So again, I've used my map to select this end section over here. And it is filtered and I've selected them and I'm going to assign that work to Sean. So it's really just select them in the list, click the button to assign, the panel opens, and you select the user that you want to assign it to. He syncs his tablet and he gets all of the turn-ons for those meters. Now, in this case, I will mention our data set does not have meters to customers. We kind of stop at the meter. Because this is configurable, having both the activity of turning on the meter as well as turning on individuals, I want to say services or customers, is a configuration step based on your data. Provided you have that data, we can do it. But unfortunately, my sample data is lacking in that. But it's the same idea. When I'm on the tablet, I can select the work items. It will select them in my list here by checking them. And I can do a very fast complete to say the work was done. Or individually, I would fill out the form for each of them saying that, you know, I was able to get this one turned on, this one, something broke off, or I can't get in because it's in the meters inside the house, whatever it is. But you can fill out the information on the form. When it syncs back, it can continue the workflow, either managing, I would call it the exceptions, the can't get ins, or any other scenario that needs to go through. The outage premise and progress. So as everything gets synced and everything is getting updated, we have the events module. There are a couple different modules. I'd mentioned there's an events module. This gives you all of the work that needs to be done. There's a history module that shows you what's been completed. there is an exceptions module that shows you what is an exception. Regardless of which module you're in, you still have your map. And here you can see that we're symbolizing each of the meters, in this case, based on whether it is, I'm going to go down here, on and needs to be turned off, on needs to be turned off, but it's got a CGI associated with it. So using the symbology on the map, once you've memorized this list and how the colors actually work, you can tell whether or not there is an issue. So here we've got the yellow outside and a gray inside. It is off and needs to be turned on, but there is a CGI that somebody needs to address. Okay. Obviously selecting this would filter my list, and that would be the only thing shown. Okay. Otherwise, he completed his work and everything is on that should be turned on. So this symbology gets updated as everything gets synced back in the field. It's available to anybody that has access to the app. But the next one is communicating the outage completion. And for that, we've created a dashboard. Now this is kind of just the base out of the box dashboard that will communicate the outage status. Now in this case, this is my demo data set. So I have a few more outages in here that have not been completed, and they've been open for a lot longer than any outage ever should last. But the idea is all of these widgets along the outside. So this starburst up in the top right corner, it has a company, division, and district, and then an outage level. If I click on any one of those levels, it will zoom to the area and show me the information in that area. So it's kind of providing me with a rolled up view of all of the outages that are currently being worked, so that you have an idea of how many total customers are off. Down below, you can see the customers off, and you can see that as they get turned on, we get the green line and the red line. So as you're working an outage, those will cross and things will get better. Behind the communicate outage is actually the state of an individual outage. So this yellow one is nearly complete. So those steps, the progression through the workflow of turning things off, repairing the outage, repressurizing, leak survey, and then turning everything back on. That's what these bars are representing here. So you can see Oak Hill has probably turned everybody off, they've repaired, and they're probably right about repressurization. But this one here, they're currently working on turn-ons. So they're getting their customers turned back on at this point, and then they will be complete. So it just gives you a very quick view as to how quickly or how far along they are in their process. Over here on the left, it's very tiny at this point, but it says Bark Ridge Court. That is our outage. And it is indicating the customers that are currently off. And then up in the top right, there is a bar chart that is showing me the days left to be restored. So I've got negative numbers because they have been sitting out there for quite some time. But all of these widgets around the outside are linked in. So if I had actually selected, let's say Oak Hill 4, I could click on that bar, oops, and it would filter the rest of the widgets and zoom the map to that area so that I am looking at the view for that specific outage. Are there any questions on this?
A question.
Yep.
Is there any functionality that will block you? Let's say you don't have all your turnoffs completed.
Yep.
Is there functionality that won't let you start the next phase or turn-ons?
Yes, actually, you can't see the work for the other steps until you get to that step.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay. Now, we also have a button just in case to push things to that next step, but that is on a management module that you can control access to based on user. And it helps me with demos because then I can push an outage through quicker.
So, Faye, can you talk a little bit about the, when you say for an external view, I mean, you just mentioned user. Can you limit the access to various users? And can a user be someone outside the company?
So when you have the GIS-OMS open, and the main landing page of the web page provides you with all of the modules that you have access to. So If I were to open that up because I'm a demo user, I would see all of the modules. I kind of mentioned, you saw the incident module at the very beginning, then there's the event module where we do the assignment. We were showing you the tablet version of the mobile, but we also have a web version for mobile completion, or a web version for completions. We call it the inspection module. But we have exceptions and events and history and the configuration. So I have access to all those modules. We have control. We have user control at a module level. So you can indicate that your field crews only have access to inspection, in which case they would have access through the mobile tablet as well as the web page, but they would only have the inspection module. They couldn't get to assignments or anything else like that. They couldn't create an incident. You could open up the incident module and just provide that one to customer service or engineering or whoever you would want to be creating those outages. So you have user control at a module level for the majority of the application. Now the web page here indicating internal or external views, this is Esri's web app builder. And however you've configured access to it can be controlled, whether it's fully public, you could put it out on AGOL and everything could be there, and access to the underlying data. I'm going to point to my screen, which you guys can't see. The GIS data here, you would control the access through your Esri security. So even though it's public, because these layers are not, they don't get to see them. So you can control external views in that respect. And internal views, you can control that based on groups, because this is Esri's web app builder. It's going to be hosted on your ArcGIS Enterprise platform, whether it's AGOL or internal. You would control who has access to it through that. So that sounded like part one. Part two, external people. External people for viewing the communications dashboard, because this is what we're looking at right now. Again, as I mentioned, that's going to be controlled through your Esri ArcGIS Enterprise security. So if it is fully public, then everybody could see it. But if the data being served up in the map is not, then they wouldn't be able to see the individual meters that I have here and services and everything else. For the application, behind the scenes, the application, if you were to do mutual aid, because that is a concern, depending on the security that you select for the application, whether you're using Windows Active Directory or Portal, the user needs to be added to that environment. Okay. And this is where I want to say the biggest heartburn here is the user needs to be added to the environment so that the authentication will work for them. And so there has to be an effort to get them loaded. We do have links into ArcGIS Enterprise Portal as well as Active Directory, so you can load users from there very quickly. It's on our roadmap to be able to load an Excel file of users to get them into the system quickly, but it still requires them to exist in either Active Directory or Portal so that they can be authenticated. Not that I'm promoting this, but some people say, well, why can't we just use generic users? You can use generic users. You could have mutual aid 1, mutual aid 2, mutual aid 3, and have them set up all of the time. And you can disable them within the application so that you can't just use them all of the time. But what we have heard back is that from a security perspective, a tracking perspective, we need to know who mutual aid 1 is at that time, who completed the work, because when the work gets recorded, we just know mutual aid 1 did it. But that's going to depend on your security requirements and how you want to manage that. But yes, you can add more users as long as they exist in your authentication mechanism, whatever is selected there.
Yeah, so thank you. You answered my question. One of them was really based on a mutual aid component, but the second one also was if a utility or utilities wanted to share, in a sense, that just the dashboard only.
Yes.
Let's say with state regulator. I'm not saying we're doing that. If that was the case, would the dashboard only be a feature they could sign on and see?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions?
If I'm a field tech working on an outage, now let's just say it's the relight process, can I see other work other than the work that's currently assigned to me?
Yes.
Okay.
So in our mobile device, I didn't kind of talk about it. Let me back up a bit. There it is. There is a bar in the lower right corner. We refer to it as our Around Me tool. I can expand that, and when I drop my balloon, my locator pin, uses the GPS, drops it to where I'm located, and we'll do a buffer area, and within that area, it will pull up a list that looks just like this over on the right-hand side, and it's work that's not currently assigned to you. The question comes to the utility, what do you want to do with that? What if the work's assigned to somebody else? If you're offline and somebody completes the work here, and it's assigned to somebody else, how do you notify them? So there's a whole workflow that different utilities have different things they want to do. You can see it. Yes. Can they complete the work? Is that what you want them to do is my question. So it's something that we would.
I'm thinking of the specific scenario I was thinking about is if let's say it's a major outage, let's say flooding or something, and as customers have if they're ready to be, if they qualify to be relit, let's say, or, and they're just kind of walking the neighborhood and talking to technicians as they're coming out of other customer homes and they're saying, hey, I'm ready, or even if it's just not a flooding, it's just, it was CGI, but now I came home. Can you come to, so that the technician has the ability to assign the work to him or herself.
Yes.
And see that work actually first, and then be able to assign it.
Yes. So this will let him see it. And I think at this point it's configured to allow them to complete it. But it is something that we're kind of aware of, that it may not be everybody's workflow.
Okay.
But it does come with a caveat. If you are offline and it can't sync back, you need to notify somebody that you've done it. Okay. Anything else?
Other questions from people? You can either unmute yourselves and ask the question, or again, you can use the chat feature if you have any questions.
Okay.
I can ask the big question.
Yeah.
Did somebody else have a question? I don't want to.
No, it's yours, Don. Go ahead. Yeah.
So the big question is, for people that are looking at this, is like, okay, point me to that utility that's using I know it's 1 or 2 years, maybe. Well, point me to that utility that's using this, and what, who's been the guinea pig that's worked out all the kinks and things like that. Just the typical shopping experience questions, right? So has that happened, or is there something in the works now? I know personally I've talked to a couple of folks, without naming them. One was involved, but I guess management didn't see it as a high priority, whereas this individual saw it as a high priority. And another company was, I guess the same thing. It kind of, this is a little bit different from other systems that maybe utilities are looking at, because you don't really want to use it. You don't know how important it is until something happens and you really need it. Unlike, EAM and just GIS and all these other projects that we're doing. So has that been a challenge?
Bart, do you want to take it, or do you want me to?
Sure, no, I'll take it. So Don, this is a relatively, young system in the sense that we're evolving it. And I think you know that. So I think, you talked about one place that has the system right now. We are working with a couple of places right now. One of them is, on the line, Unitil. We're rolling out the system there. It's a fully funded exercise, and Stacy is on the line, I think, Kilroy, who's the leader there, and she could probably answer questions in that respect. We are talking to a couple other people and have plans to probably deploy it at some point in time, but I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. And that is basically what we have right now. We do have a recognition from, the vendor we built the application on top of, and some other things that have looked at the application pretty well. We do feel like this is, when we look at ESRI-based applications, this is really one of the only truly enterprise applications we see out there. We have others, but our focus is really to try to evolve things that you can do with the investment in GIS and other IT that you can roll out. So that's what we have right now, Don.
Thank you.
Sure.
Hi, Dawn. This is Stacy Kilroy. You can call me offline if you would like. From Unisel, we are definitely in the infancy stage with respect to execution of this particular product, but we saw the value a long time ago. We had our own homegrown internal outage management system, and we've really outgrown it. Which is why we, taking this exercise very seriously, have partnered with UDC because they give us an opportunity to leverage a lot of the technology that we already have at Unitil in order to make this a successful rollout. And the exercise that we had internally is we could identify easily who was in scope and the progress of the scope, meaning the turns on and the turns off, but we never had anything that was a spatial component. And that's one reason why we partnered with UDC, because we are an Esri platform and we do want to take this exercise. We do see the value in making this a spatial. And also our current format was very paper-based, even though we could identify everything in a computer system. When it got pushed down to the field techs, they were basically utilizing paper. Obviously there's a lot of flaws with that. So we're trying to work with UDC and, their platform is a digital platform, bring your own device, whether that be an iPad or an iPhone or a laptop that's in somebody's computer type of thing. So those are some of the reasons that we've partnered with UDC. And so far, some of the discussions that we're having just to, get our environment up and running and actually get everything installed. I'm very encouraged with the progress that we're making. Bart and Faye have done a great job. So.
Well, I appreciate all that information, Stacy. So I'll probably take you up on an opportunity to talk in more detail with some of our team as we're going through this process.
Sure.
We've got a bit of work to do on the GIS side first. We're currently a small world shop, so that's the first step. And Faye and Bart, and I think others know this, so we're it's on our roadmap, but this is an opportunity we haven't had over the last year or so to talk to somebody that's farther down the road than we are. So that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Stacy. I should say that Stacy, who runs the outage management process, these guys are fairly well advanced and have their procedures figured out because they were doing an outage management before. And any part of an implementation here is really using the part that's common for most people and then adding your special pieces, which there's a couple special pieces for Stacy, but I think Stacy and her crew are pretty darn experienced in terms of outage automation and working with an outage system. So I think they know what they want to do, and that's been really helpful for us. So Don, we are working with some other folks who have small world as well, and are going to make a switch in systems, and without getting into specifics of who and all that stuff, there's other folks in that same category. And Don, we're glad to show you anything you want to show. I mean, I do know where you're at and everything, but we're always, open to showing you more of the system and getting you guys online for more questions if you want as well, or anybody.
I
So
appreciate that. Thank you.
sure.
Are there any other questions for Bart or Faye? And hearing none, not seeing anything else. Bart, Faye, Ed, Mike Gallinaro and myself from NGA, and anybody else on this call, we got in this, feel free to reach out to us at NGA for your help. So, Bart, do you want to leave just in the closing of anything here for closing?
Yes. Thanks, Jose. One more, flip a slide, Faye. One more. So, the question is, what would be the next step if you guys saw some interest or had interest in getting either getting more information, and even more importantly, relating it to the way you guys do outage management right now. So we're glad to spend the time working with you and hear about how you do the outage business, and show you how that applies in the system or can be accommodated. We're in the GIS system integrator business, so if you have concerns about my GIS system isn't ready or other things, we're knowledgeable there too in terms of how to get you to the point where you can use this system on top of your GIS. And so we're glad to do those things. And the next step is, if you're interested in more information or having a custom session with yourselves, we'd be glad to do that. We're not going to try to be openly commercial or whatever. We learn a lot from interaction with your team about the process. So that would be the next step, and you just need to let us know and we will schedule that. I think that's it, Jose. So.
All right. Yeah, excellent. So as Bart mentioned, definitely reach out to Bart, Faye, or Ed directly if you want, or if you have you want to reach out to us at NGA to put you in contact, that's an option as well. So Mike, myself, and Heather reach out to one of us. So with that, I'll just ask again: are there any final questions for anybody in the group here? No. With that, then thank you, Bart and Faye, for your presentation today. It was excellent, and for answering our questions. And for everybody else that joined this morning, thank you, and have a good rest of your day.
UDC.